All right, questions.
I have mail merge questions.
Mila's got mail merge questions.
First off, I want to know in Google Sheets, is there not a save button?
No, it
No,
automatically.
yeah, it
saves.
automatically saves.
Everything in Google automatically.
Because
saves.
I've been having this screen up for days. Because
yes, no, yes, yeah. Nope, it all goes. It automatically saves everything, which is amazing because back in the day, if you didn't save something, you lost it.
It was
if
gone.
It went away.
Yeah, it automatically saves
Yeah,
it.
no, so thank God. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
So I made it to mail merge.
Okay. Good job.
I have my addresses in,
Okay.
but I can't edit it without moving other things around, and I'm having a problem with that. I also have an extra envelope in between each envelope, and I cannot figure out how to get rid of it. So it's showing that I have 318 envelopes, which I don't need 318.
Okay. Do you want to share the file with me? Do you want to
Sure.
share your screen with the group?
Sure, whatever you want to do. I don't know how to do neither
Well,
of those things.
Get
All
you
right.
logged in on the
Oh,
You have
you're
to
not
get-
on Zoom. So
yeah,
just
oh,
share,
go on
just
Zoom.
share, or just share,
we can-
just share your file with me and I can open it.
That probably be easier. So
Yeah.
right up here. just
Oh, share. Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Share the original file and then it sounds like you have the completed file as well. Just share the
Go
file
on groups, yeah, and then just type in Amy up there.
and then just let me know what account you share it with so I can go to the right place.
KWVV broker.
That one works.
Try again. There you go. Perfect. Now I can send it to her.
Of course, it's the only one that's not ever, I don't think I've ever opened that drive. Somebody's on GroupMe. What's going on over there? All right, give us just a minute, everybody. I've got to get squared away. Okay. It's just wanting me to re-log into my 50 trillion Gmail accounts.
Mila, by the way,
Right.
if it's, we have a moment, we're gonna make a reel on Saturday. I'm
Okay.
getting into reels.
Okay.
I told my husband, I'm like,
Oh,
oh, what
good,
reel am
good,
I gonna make
good.
tonight? Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
It takes me a couple of takes, but they're fun.
I'll make sure I have a makeup on.
No thanks.
She's all
Look real
ready.
pretty.
Not now. Stop asking me questions. Ask me all these questions. Stop it.
Found me one of those lights,
right.
those ring lights. I don't know.
Did you think about what you're gonna do with the dogs so I can do an open house on Saturday?
I'm waiting for a response back. So it's not that I have to make arrangements for them.
Okay.
Thor doesn't travel well, so I need to find him a place to go.
Aw,
All right. I think this is the one.
Max on it, enter.
got some shit to do today.
Hey, language.
I agree, me too.
All
right.
Yell it.
All right. So here is the mail merge of untitled document. This should be the completed document. Do you have the file in there?
I'm so scared to go anywhere. I don't know. So what do I do? Go into file, open, and is that where I'm
I'm gonna
going?
have to, I don't know which one she's referring
Okay.
to.
I could have gave it to you, slid it around.
All right, we're gonna go to your drive. Refresh the drive. But I think this is the one here, and then this is the completed.
So we don't want we want the completed one, or we don't?
I don't want the completed one.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, Steve. Sorry.
All right.
okay. So go into the incomplete because I want to work while you work, or I
Yeah.
want to look.
Yeah, so you'll so when you start with Google Docs or Sheets or whatever, to do the mail merge, Google Docs, it'll create, you have your base file,
Mhm.
which is this one, and then once you merge it, it'll put it into like a completed file. So it always hold this file, so you could always add a new list to it and then re-merge
Oh.
it. And it'll create that new merged file. And then you have the merged file. So when we were looking at Mila's other file here, this one, the completed one, see how like there's gaps
Mhm.
on each of the envelopes. So we need to eliminate that gap. And she was saying that she maybe wanted to move some stuff around. So
Mhm.
we need to go back to the source file to do that
Oh, I
and
didn't
then
know it was two
remerge.
files.
Yeah, and then remerge them to the completed
Oh.
document.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So-
should I title this one the source file?
Yeah, this could be like your like mail merge template
Okay.
if you wanted to. And keep in mind too that you can always adjust like your margins and stuff on here. So Mila, on your template file, what did you want to change besides the gap?
I want to bring my name and address up a little higher and maybe to the left a tad bit.
All right, so to move it to the left, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight that little address block
Uh-huh.
and then see the little arrow at the top. We're going to
Wait, where you go? Okay.
we're going to move that over,
okay.
which is going to change that margin setting.
Okay.
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 So to move it over. Now, I'm not sure why
It's so low.
it's so low. It doesn't like us. But that's all right. We'll fix this. Hold on. We're going to go into file and we're going to go into page setup. And we're going to go here where this is the margins. We're going to change these margins to 0.25. Okay. Oh, I did something wrong. Hold on. File. Now she's going to be like, Amy, you screwed up my whole document. That's right. Landscape.
So do landscape and not
It was already set up in landscape.
oh, okay.
So I just moved that because I had moved, oops, hold on, I gotta fix it both. Because I had moved the margin over before I fully adjusted the margins, it bumped it off the page.
Oh, okay.
So now here we've got you in a
Better.
better location.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
And then we're gonna come down here and we're gonna move this block. I don't know why it hates us.
What?
It's like it's doing something weird there.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. Interesting. All right, let's go. Interesting. All right, so I don't know why it's not participating in the process. So let's go. What did you use to create the mail merge? Did you use
I went so I was in the title company
uh-huh,
and I did the CSV
uh-huh,
and then it took me to sheets. I put it in sheets.
okay,
And then I took some columns out and moved some columns
Okay.
over. I did that.
okay.
And then what did I do there?
Oh,
Somehow got to mail merge from
You know
there.
why is because, okay, everybody hold on just a second. Can I borrow your computer?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay, everybody hold on. This is not gonna work. We'll get it to work. All right, hold on. I'm thinking about this, everybody, trying to figure out the
Well,
best option to get you guys on the same page as Mila.
I think if she just logged into the Zoom and
Yeah.
then shared her page. with
Who, me?
Yeah.
Log into the Zoom.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna mute my All right, everybody. Oh, goodbye.
Mhm.
All right, so we are on Mila's computer now. So I'm going to start video. Oh, look, it already joined. And then we're gonna share screen. Desktop 1. We're gonna learn all about Mila today because I've got her computer in front of me.
I'm a nervous wreck over here. Good thing that this is a business computer.
All right.
That's a cool screen though, Mila. I like that.
All right, so here, let's cover up Mila's screen so that we can't see too much. All right, so the problem I was having is that she shared it with my KWVV account and I don't have any add-ons or anything on that Google account. So here I've got the add-ons. No, I don't. Okay, how did you take it from here to the mail merge?
What? How did I take what? That from there from?
How did you get
Take
it
that
to
mail
put
merge?
all the addresses in?
On sheets
Uh-huh.
and up at the top right, I believe. Let me see. Okay, go to. Yeah,
This one?
Empty nesters.
Yeah.
But it's the sheet looking one.
Yeah, it's the sheet one.
Oh, okay.
All right, so from here,
From there, did I go open? Take up the whole meeting. I tell you, you're gonna be sick of me. I don't freaking know, Amy, to be honest.
she
Let's
doesn't
see.
freaking know, she says.
Okay, go to, Drive maybe?
What's that blue editing in the corner, in that corner over there?
All right, so you went to Drive. And you should have
Is it this one then?
this one.
Is that in a Drive?
It is.
Is that the same thing?
I think it's the same thing.
What the heezy? Okay. You see, I have so many because I
Did,
didn't figure out where I was going.
did you use a program to get from Docs to your mail merge?
From Docs, to a program like outside of Google?
Yeah, like an add-on.
No.
No.
I went straight from Old Republic Title,
Uh-huh.
CSV,
Uh-huh.
right? And then I uploaded that to Sheets.
Uh-huh.
And then I did all that to make it pretty,
Uh-huh.
like that. It's
Okay.
very pretty.
It is very pretty.
And then I tried to go to, can you go to mail merge from there?
Well, I'm not seeing an option.
Okay, then go back to Google Drive then.
Okay.
Because somewhere I had mail merge here on the side. Maybe was it new?
So
Create a
you,
new Google sheet, because you had to put it into a Google sheet in order to.
I thought it was Sheets. Over
Yeah,
here
yeah,
it
was a
says
that's what-
merge.
See the editing where it says blue right there? It's like a drop down editing. Does that give you any options there?
No,
Yeah.
it's actually a
Yeah, it was
thing
like a-
here that says merge when you hover over it.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, people, I'm sorry.
so I have an add-on that lets me do that. That's why I was asking.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have nothing downloaded on the computer.
All right. We may come back and revisit this
Yeah,
here
we
in a
might
little bit.
have to, because I don't mean to take up everybody's time, and I have other questions for other things.
This wasn't it.
Now, I didn't do an add-on at all, I know that.
Okay. We'll come back and revisit this because Mila did it without an add-on. So we want to figure out how she did that so that you guys don't have to do the add-on. And while we wait for that, Mila, what are your other questions?
So I have the merge question.
Mhm.
And then I have, so my lady is, we were countered, right? We were countered a couple days ago. So she's been ignoring me, but today I got her, she's ready to pull the trigger, but she wants to,
Counter the counter.
I don't know. So this is what I was wondering. They need some repairs. I didn't necessarily know if that needed to be a counter or could we have just did an addendum for that? Because she wants to get the seller credit so she'll have the money at the end of the transaction to do the repairs versus bringing the price down and not have the money to do the repairs.
So did the seller offer to bring the price down? So, okay. So we made an offer. Did we talk about the repairs in the offer?
No, because we didn't have them for the initial offer. We didn't.
Have the reports.
No.
And then
Mm-mm.
they countered you and you haven't responded to the counter yet.
No, I didn't because I've been being ditched.
Okay. And then on the response to on the counter offer they made, did it address any of the repair issues or anything?
No, they just agreed to the price.
Okay.
In that, but we didn't address any repairs because they just got the roof. They kind of really, the listing agent is really moving faster than I'm used to, because normally the buyer agent requests like the repairs if they don't already have it ahead of time. And we're not actually in contract, but she went on and got a roof inspection. And then my client did a home inspection, even though we're not even in contract, because she wanted to make sure she was willing to risk that money to see what she was getting into versus.
Okay. So
Fine.
now is she agreeable with the price? She wants to increase it and get a deposit? Or is she wanting credit, or is she wanting a credit off the agreed to price?
She wants a credit off even the agreed to
Okay,
price.
so you'll want to counter their counter.
Okay, so I am countering their
Mhm.
counter. Okay.
Yeah. So anytime you're not in contract yet, generally speaking, the response is going to be a
A
counter.
counter,
Yeah, you're
okay.
always going to respond with a counter to reach an agreement before we have a ratified contract.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so we're going to counter their counter.
Okay. And then it will be my counter one.
Yep.
Because they
It'd be
had a counter one, it's my counter
Yeah,
one.
so
Okay.
theirs will be a SCO, a seller counter offer. And now we're going to do a BCO, a buyer counter offer. It'll be one. So seller counter offer one, buyer counter offer one. Your buyer counter offer one is going to reference the SCO one,
Mhm.
the seller counter offer one. And everything that's in the offer and everything that's not overridden already by the seller counter offer, now we're just we don't have to address everything that was on that counter offer. We can just come back with, seller to credit $5,000 towards buyer's closing costs.
Okay. And they get that in the end, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't affect, she's still buying it for the price we agree, but we want to make sure she can get some cash to pay for
Yes.
it.
And
Okay.
we don't want to put on that counter offer seller to get a $5,000 credit towards closing costs for repairs.
Mhm.
Because now the lender's going to be like, repairs, what's that? Now I need to see reports and inspections and what repairs is she wanting? And now we can't get a credit. Now the repairs need to be done prior to the close of escrow. So it becomes a mess. So we do want to just on the counter offer, put a credit towards the closing costs.
Okay.
And then you want to have a conversation with that agent or in your email that when you send that counter offer back over, you want to say, hey, here's where we're at. Like my sellers or my buyers willing to move forward. We are requesting now that we have a home inspection, please see the copy. You've got the roof inspection. She is wanting a credit in the amount of this to handle the major issues that have come up in those inspections.
Mhm.
And so we've listed it as a closing cost credit, but please know it's for those repairs and she's accepting the property as is. And you may want to, at that point, like if she's had all the inspections done that she's planning to have, like go ahead and remove that physical inspection contingency. Like, hey,
Mhm.
we're asking for a credit and
Yep,
and
sounds like Wednesday.
we're removing our physical investigation contingency,
Okay.
Got it.
right? So if they know that, hey, we're not going to come back and ask for more.
Mhm.
It is what it is. Like, here's what we're asking for.
Okay. And then another thing, sorry, you guys.
Go for it.
Another thing, so in a termite inspection, they stated that the actual inspector was gonna come back and do those repairs at the before the close of escrow. Do I put that in the counter too, or leave that out of there? I
Yes.
just want to confirm, although I spoke with him, but I just want something in writing stating he's going to do.
Yeah. So if the listing agent, whoever has already told you that, yeah, we've scheduled the repairs to be completed,
Mhm.
we want that in writing
Okay.
because technically even verbal doesn't mean anything
Mhm.
and they could decide they don't want to do that. So
Okay.
we definitely want to make sure that's in writing someplace. And that would be because they're going to do it before the close of escrow and they're going to they're going to do all the pest repairs.
No, not all of them, but the major ones. Mhm. He's gonna sign off on what the actual seller repaired himself.
Okay.
And then he's going to do the repairs that they agreed. And then the other ones will be on my client to do.
All right. So we do want that in writing someplace.
Mhm.
And we don't want it necessarily referenced in the counter offer because of the fact that if they're not providing pest clearance, mentioning the pest report in the counter offer is going to red flag it for
Right.
clearance by the lender. So
Mhm.
I would do an addendum to the purchase contract
Okay.
because we're not in contract yet and we're just clarifying. We don't want it in the counter offer.
Mhm.
I would do an addendum to the purchase contract, just verifying, listing agent has communicated that the following to be completed prior to the close of escrow. And then list the items on the pest inspection that were going to be repaired by
Okay.
either the seller and the
Okay.
pest company.
So with this scenario, like how they said, like,
I'm a doozy, huh?
but like, like obviously she's on forms and stuff, but like if there was ever an exchange, like I know verbal, no, but like if it was an email, something that was said, would that hold up in like a court situation if someone went, or does it have to be perfectly filled out on all our forms in order for it to hold up in that type of scenario? Like,
So if it's a disclosure item, like, hey, Melissa, I just wanted to give you a heads up, the tree in the front yard, it cracked in the storm last week. I just wanted to make sure you were aware so that your buyer was aware. That would work,
got it.
right?
Okay.
Because now you've been made aware to make your buyers aware. Hey, I had a conversation with the neighbor last night and they said this property flooded 10 years ago. Hasn't had any issues since, but did want to make sure you were aware of that, or, whatever that would be. Sending that in an email format after the other disclosures that already been done would be appropriate. But for like a contractual, we want this agreed to, we need this completed or part of the agreement in
Got it.
order to close on the property, it should be in writing on a car form of some
Got it.
sort. Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. Because like the verbal coming from, I was
Right.
saying from our conversation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if
Right,
that
right.
was, but no, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay, cool.
So for something like this, like repairs to be completed or things to be left,
Mhm.
I would not leave it to an email. I would want to make sure that was in an official addendum or an amendment to the existing agreement.
Okay.
And because we don't have an existing agreement, that's why an addendum would come into play here,
Okay, got it.
because we're
Alright.
just clarifying.
Got it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Did anybody have any questions about that on the Zoom call? We're still on Mila's computer.
Nope.
Cool.
And she's missing at that column. I pulled up mine. I'm like, I don't even know how to get what she's talking about is right here. This column being there. And then the
Yeah.
mail merge is right here.
Oh, okay. So,
But I don't know why that column's not existing on hers.
yep.
It's
So,
showing my calendar.
Are you on Sheets?
Yeah, I'm on Sheets.
Oh.
So that's where your one was at. And then from there, you go to the mail merge and then you set up all the things that pull.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that's not showing. I don't know if it's hidden or.
She is crazy, but we'll just.
Oh, you know what? There's an arrow. Oh, no.
I tried the arrow. Oh, right here. I got it
You
now.
found it now?
Yep, I got it. Okay. Oh, cool.
Oh, where was it?
It was hiding.
There's a bottom arrow at the corner. See that one right next
All
to
right.
you?
This
That
one?
makes it go away, that column.
Yeah. All right. So see this column. So we're back to the mail merge in case anybody's tracking with us at this point. I don't think we're tracking with ourselves at this point.
I had a quick question on
Right,
that
so-
situation with Mila. So you would do the addendum after everyone agreed, like once you're in contract for that pest, right?
No, we're gonna do, because we're in the counter offer period.
Mhm.
We're gonna do the addendum now as part of the counter offer. Otherwise, once we're in contract, then it really would need to be on an AEA or a repair
Okay.
request.
Okay, so you just do both at the same time, but just put it on two different forms.
Yeah, we're just gonna put it on two different forms. We're gonna do
Okay.
the counter offer for the sales price or for the credit. And then we're just gonna do an addendum to the purchase agreement that here's what we were told and is happening prior to the close of escrow. It's not an official repair request because the buyer didn't necessarily need to make that request. They were told it was happening. And so we're just gonna do it on an addendum to clarify so that's part of that contract.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that makes sense now. Thank you. I was a little confused.
Absolutely. All right. All right. So here we are back on Google Sheets. So we had the spreadsheet that Mila got from the title company. She downloaded it. She went to her farm or whatever, downloaded the CSV file, right? You can download an Excel, CSV, whatever it is file. She uploaded that into Google, her Google Drive, and then opened it in Sheets. Okay. So that's where we're at
Yes.
right now.
Mhm.
Okay. And on the right-hand side of the document here, there's some little teeny tiny icons floating over here on the side. And is it this one?
Mhm.
Or this little blue one at the bottom with, it looks like a writing or whatever. It looks like a little document. If we click that, it's gonna magically open up a mail merge column. Look at this. We're learning so much from Mila today. All right.
My pleasure.
So from here, we're gonna click that we want to do envelopes because that's her goal is she's going to make envelopes so that she can print this. And we're going to open Google Docs. Her computer is so small right now, just for the record. I don't think it's your fault. I think it's because I've got it on the screen.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like baby letters. All right. You guys complain about my font. You should see what I'm looking at right now. All right. So here we have the mail merge here. And what we want to do is we want to go up to file and go page setup because we want it to be an envelope size. So we're going to look here for that envelope size. And if we don't see it, none of those are envelope size, right?
No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Um,
Let me see, because I Googled it yesterday, the size of an envelope.
yeah. Surprised because we said envelopes, it didn't give us the option.
But I did have it on one, because that's how I got to the envelope. Sorry. I didn't go in here though, I don't
All
think. But I did put an envelope because I had to Google the size. Because the standard 418.
What'd you come up with?
4.12 by 9.5. I have the.
Hi, Heather. Interesting.
But because it gives you a different, it gave me some envelope. I'm just gonna do postcards. This is-
No.
I can't handle all of this.
The thing is, once you set up the template, you're good. Like,
Yeah,
it's
what's-
solid, so. It's like. number-
All right, we're gonna come back to this. Scrap it, number 2.
I am stomping you today.
You
huh?
are.
Sorry.
Okay. I appear very technology savvy, but it's only things that I know.
Yeah.
And now you've
Um,
taken me outside of what I know. And I will figure it out.
So-
It just might take me a little while. All
Yeah,
right.
even me and Carrie was trying to work on it.
All right. We'll figure this out and we'll come back and revisit this.
Okay.
Does anybody else have questions before we jump into, we got time, our BRE?
And I want to say Kim, by the way, because I think it was us that she was showing that to us real quick. And it's one of these, and she knows which one it is.
I know, Jess
It's
showed
like-
me how
I
to
feel like
do
it's
it too.
B4, but I don't know, which is weird.
Well, I
Right.
felt like B4 was the closest
Yeah.
but Mila's convinced she didn't go here to the
Yeah,
page
yeah,
setup, so.
Well, I don't know if I'm convinced, but I know I
Well, there
did
was-
see one that had
Well, the
envelopes.
B4
and
is
it had-
not it, because that's full, but the B6 is close, or B5, or the A5.
And I think she's right, because I didn't go to this part when Kim showed me. Like, I feel like when I initially put on the mail merge thing,
Yeah,
it gave you the option there.
But
So
for
she probably
envelopes,
already
huh?
skipped that step.
well, it didn't,
But then
that's,
it
I
wasn't
even went
filtered
back.
to
Yeah,
them,
she was
so-
starting this all over again.
Yeah, because I went, all right, anyways,
Yeah.
we'll come back to that. All right, Mila, I'm gonna give you your computer back for
Okay.
now. Everybody hold tight. We're gonna disconnect you. Mila's gonna turn off her screen share.
Okay.
All right. Doesn't matter. I'll probably kick you out here in a second.
I'm just leaving them.
Muted. Sorry, everybody, I was muted. Welcome to my life. All right. And then we're gonna share screen. All right, we're gonna talk about the BRE, which is the buyer representation agreement, the buyer broker agreement. We're gonna dive into that real quick. So I'm gonna bump it up there. Hold on, my little box for Zoom keeps getting in my way. All right. All right, so, and then let's put your lovely pictures up here so that we can see your lovely faces. All right, so in case anybody is still confused about how to get into your zip forms, remember we're going to go to car.org, car.org, and then from there, your homepage is going to look more like this. We're going to click this little bubble here that says Access Realtor Secure Transactions. And then we're going to click here on, if you're going to bookmark this page right here. Don't bookmark that first page, bookmark this page, because from here you can just click the button to access zip forms. Okay. And then we're going to sign in. If you haven't signed in already, it's going to prompt you. It's going to give you 27 more boxes to click on. It's going to be okay. We'll get through it. And then we're going to click this orange box here, this or yellow gold, the gold box, continue to transactions there in the middle of the screen, which is going to open up a new window. If you have pop-up blockers on and you can't get past that screen, it's because your pop-up blocker is preventing you from doing that. So I'm just going to reiterate that over and over and over again so that we don't get frustrated and spend lots of time getting irritated about why can't I get to the next screen? And then you realize your pop-up blocker's on. Heather got her braces off, by the way, for her birthday.
Oh,
Now she's got retainers.
How fun.
I feel like I'm gagging.
Woohoo!
All right.
I like the last day and a half. It's nice.
If you are creating a new file, like you've got a buyer that's ready to like start looking at properties, then what you do from that last screen, from here, you would just click new and then go purchase transaction, and then you want to name it. I normally name my purchase transactions as like last name and like offer or purchase. Okay. So just so you know, I don't care what method you use. My listings usually get an address and my buyers usually get like last name and purchase so that I know what I'm looking for in there. Once you're in here in the summary, then you're gonna come over here to, well, okay, number one, in the parties, you want to go from summary to parties, and then you want to make sure you put your buyers' names in here, okay, with their email address. So put their name and their email address, because that's how we're going to send it out for signatures. And if you put their email address in here by just going, hey, I want to add buyer 2, we click on it, we put in their first name, we put in their last name, we put in their email. That's all you have to put in here. And then you hit the little save button that's now covered up by the Zoom pictures. We hit save, and then that will save it in there. Makes it really easy for you to send stuff out for electronic signatures in the future. So once you have your buyers in there, then you're going to go documents. And then you're going to go zoom, go over there, zoom to the other side of the screen. And then you're going to click all forms, and you're going to search for the BRE, buyer rep agreements. Okay. If you search representation, it's not going to come up because it's abbreviated. So you'll search forever and never find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did that.
We call it the buyer broker agreement. There's no broker in that name, so that's not going to come up either. So if you search buyer, you're going to get a bunch of different things, but the BRE is what it's called. So there's your mental note for the day. Once it turns blue, or yours might be a different color, mine's blue. Once yours is shaded a color, that means it's been added to your transaction, and then you can just click off that screen and you'll find it down here at the bottom. So yours may look like this. This is confusing to me. I don't like this, but you're welcome to have yours set up however you want. If you want it in a list, we can come over here and hit the little list feature in the upper right-hand corner, and it'll move it back to a list. And what's nice about the list is anytime you add something, it adds it to the bottom.
Oh.
Me-
okay.
I have a square.
Yeah, I have a squares too.
I don't like squares. You can do whatever you want. I'm not here to tell you how to run your business. I'm just here to help you be successful. And it really makes no difference. The doc's there. So as long as you can navigate it, that's
This
all that
is
matters.
cleaner though.
I think
That's
so.
For your OCD.
Once you click on it, there are some forms that are attached to that BRE that have to stay with the BRE. So in case you were following our conversation the other day on GroupMe about what docs should be included, you don't have to include any additional docs, and you can't take away these docs either. So we don't need to, with your buyer representation agreement, we don't need to add more stuff like we did with the purchase agreement, like the market conditions advisory, the statewide buyer and seller advisory, all those things. You could, but it's not necessary. So I just keep it. So you give your disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. So right as we're talking with our buyers, this would be a good time to say there's different ways you can be represented in a transaction. You can be represented if you're selling your property as a seller's agent. You can be represented as the buyer's agent when you're purchasing a property, or by a buyer's agent when you're purchasing a property, or it may be somebody who's representing both parties. So if I had a listing and I was representing you as the buyer, then that would be considered dual agency. I'd be representing both parties in the transaction. Or even if another agent in my brokerage had a listing that we were writing an offer on, that would still be considered dual agency, even though me as the agent isn't representing both parties, but that would be agent representing both buyer and seller. That's a good time to make sure that, like, at that point, I usually let my clients know that, hey, in the case that this comes up, like if I've got a listing you want to write an offer on, it's very tricky to represent both parties in the transaction. It's hard for me to protect a seller who's looking to get the most amount of money and get you to agree to their terms, and get you the best deal possible and get the seller to agree to your terms at the same time. It's kind of conflicting. So in the instance that you wanted to write an offer on a property that I had listed, then I would refer you to my partner Shannon or to another agent in our office to write that offer for you, so that somebody's looking out for your best interest and somebody's looking out for the best interest of the seller. Does that make sense? And they're
Yeah,
like, oh
that's
yeah, that
nice of
totally
you.
makes sense, right?
Now, I'm sorry, but with that, like, let's just say that was fair, we wanted to use another, like, colleague in the Mentee program. Could that be you, or you have to use someone that is not in the Mentee program? Because ultimately it's a mentor, that's what I'm.
It could be somebody in the Mentee program.
Mhm.
I would recommend not somebody with the same mentor as you.
Got it, oh, that makes sense,
Otherwise,
yeah, same
And don't
idea.
refer it to your mentor, because
Yeah.
same
got
thing.
it. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
So totally okay to just, and if the Mentee did, if you're like, oh, I really wanted to refer this to Melissa, like we work the open house, but we have the same mentor, that's okay. We can just get Melissa a new mentor for that
Got it,
transaction. We
okay.
can reassign her for that,
Got it, okay.
so that there's some separation there.
Got it, okay.
Okay. So that's how I explain this form. Seller and buyer responsibilities. Buyer, it's your responsibility to do your due diligence, go and, have any inspections you want to have done on the property, investigate it, spend some time there, make sure you know the house that you're wanting to purchase. The seller has a duty to disclose any information they have with the property and what they remember about the property. And sometimes that can be very vague. So don't depend on seller disclosures. Okay. So that's how I describe the agency disclosure there. Okay, second page is just all the legal jargon. Okay, fair housing discrimination advisory is real estate agents. We're not allowed to discriminate based on any of the protected classes that are all listed here. That's as far as I go into this form. Okay, it's 2 pages. That's it. Okay, so those are the 2 forms that are at the beginning. Then we have the buyer representation agreement. We're going to come back to this in just a second. We're going to skip to the end where we have the buyer investigation advisory. They will also get this with their RPA, their purchase agreement, when they sign one. But this is just an example of the buyer investigation advisory. Buyer, that's just reiterates the importance of inspections and investigations, all the different types of things that you can have inspected or investigated on the property. And some of them you may have a professional, you may hire a professional to do, and some just maybe you doing your due diligence, going and hanging out in the neighborhood, making sure you feel safe and secure. If you want to go for walks, just making sure that would be a neighborhood you'd be comfortable in doing that in, right? So we just touch on this again. Okay. Any questions so far on any of the supporting documents? Okay. My goal is to make it understandable and to not spend time going through every single line item. It's just not, we're just going to summarize everything, right? So then we get to the buyer representation agreement. We are going to use the BRE, the exclusive one. So it should say exclusive on it, meaning we have the exclusive right to represent that buyer. The buyer's names, because we put them into the party, should already auto-populate here on the top of the page. And then the buyer, the broker on the next line is going to be KW Vaca Valley, not your name. Okay, anytime you see broker on any of your documents, it's KW Vaca Space Valley. Okay, you're going to put a beginning date. If you double click, it'll put today's date and an ending date. I usually for my BREs make it like a year. And you can like scroll forward to a year. And I usually don't do an exact year. I usually end of the month. Because it's just easier. Okay. Here's some options here under A, right? And so this is just, hey buyer, this is, this just states that I'm going to represent you in the purchase of your home. We have to have a start date and an end date. If something happens between us and you decide this relationship is no longer working out, this can be canceled. Okay, so even though there's an expiration date and we put it a year out, if we change our mind, something happens, it'll be canceled. And then once you complete your purchase, it also is canceled. Okay, property to be acquired, here is where you would put the location. You can be very general here. So if you've got a buyer that's like, hey, we're looking somewhere in the Solano or Yolo County, like Winters, Vacaville, Dixon, you don't have to put the cities. You could just put greater Solano and Yolo counties. Right, so it can be kind of vague like that, or you can make it more specific. There's other here, price range. We don't have to fill in all of this information. I could be like, hey, we're going to go 0 to $1 million. They may be in the 600,000 mark, but maybe we want to just make sure it's covered, right? So we're going to say if they purchase a property from $1 to $1 million. Okay.
I wish about
The other thing, right? That'd be nice. The
I was
other,
trying to put that back, yeah.
your commission wouldn't be very much. I know. I sold one for 20,000 this year. It was un poquito. I couldn't even hire a transaction coordinator. I had to coordinate it myself. All right.
I do have experience at this point. No, just
I wouldn't know. All right.
I gotta go take Bubba's car to the dock.
Gotta go take Bubba's car. All right. We'll be needed. All right. The other option here is A. So the other option is a specific property. Like Heather here has a situation where she's potentially representing the tenant purchasing the property they're living in. In that case, we may just do a specific property. You check this box instead and fill in that address.
I
Okay.
did not do that because I was like, if they decide to go elsewhere, I'm still staying.
The other option may be only the properties identified on the attached list. Okay, so it talks about the fact that the broker is going to exercise due diligence, reasonable efforts, to fulfill the obligations, right? We're just creating an agreement that's outlining what our responsibility is to the client. Okay, here's the agency, this relationship we already talked about. Oh, because it won't mute her. It hates me. Abby, can you see if you can mute? Oh, there it goes. All right. All right. Agency relationships here. We already covered this. And so this just reiterates what we already talked about with the agency disclosure. There's multiple ways you can be represented in a transaction. We kind of already talked about that. This is single agency only. We don't do that. We can do dual agency. So we just ignore that portion of it. This also talks about that buyer understands that other potential buyers may, through broker, consider making offers to acquire the same or similar properties as those this buyer is seeking to acquire. Buyer consents to broker's representation of such other potential buyers before, during, or after the representation period, right? So there may be multiple buyers. We treat them all the same. We don't share information between buyers. Okay. Non-confidentiality of offers. Your offer buyer, when you make an offer on a property, and this, I usually don't go all the way through this. I normally just say this just talks about agency relationship and we move on. Because when we go to write the offer, we have the PRBS, the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller, which reiterates this all again. Okay. Compensation, the broker, this is probably the most important part here. This is where you're gonna put in, usually for a buyer, I would put in 2.5%. You'll have some agents that put in 3%, some that put in 2%. It's up to you. I usually put in 2.5% there. That's the typical commission for a buyer in this market. And if in a buyer's market, you could put 3% there. And then you could negotiate closing costs to the buyer that would cover that additional fee. So they're not actually coming out of pocket, but it would obligate them that if the listing agent was offering 2.5%, we could still get 3% and get it paid by the seller. But that's not the market we're in. It's a very competitive market trying to get that negotiated or expecting the buyer to pay an additional 0.5%. I just don't feel like that's in the buyer's best interest. I don't teach you guys how to do that because it's not just, I don't think it's good practice. It helps your bottom line, but I'm not sure it helps them. Okay, so that's my thought theory. I don't like it when lenders charge them points or a high origination fee. Why would I charge an origination fee when I'm already getting paid? Okay, so you got that. You could also do a flat rate. So let's say that maybe you were gonna do a deal where you're helping them purchase the home they're renting and you wanted to do it on a flat rate versus a percentage, you could do that.
Got it.
Okay. Or there might be a compensation schedule attached as an addendum. That would be like, hey, if you buy a property for this much, it is, you owe me this. And if it's this range, then you would owe me that. So you could do like a sliding scale, you would do attached thing. So for the most part, you're probably going to do the percentage. Okay. This is where we talk about with the buyer, like, hey, here's the deal. Like most of our compensation comes from the seller. When I represent you as the buyer's agent, it's usually at a cost to the seller, not a cost to you. I generally get compensated by the seller. We're going to put in a percentage there of 2.5%, which is kind of the industry standard in this area for what I'm going to be compensated by the seller. If in fact we come across a property and the commission being offered is lower than this, which would obligate you to pay me the difference, we'll have that conversation when we go to write that offer. So then we'll talk about how that would be handled, or if it's going to get reduced, or if you would be responsible for part of that commission. Okay, so that's just a good time to have that conversation. Just be like, hey, don't worry about this. If anything changes, you're going to have to come out of pocket anything. We're going to have that conversation again. Okay.
You're just like slap with it. Yeah.
Yeah, not scary.
Yeah.
Okay. Double click the date at the top of the second page so that it auto populates to match the date on the top of the first page.
If you do it on 2 different days, like let's say you started this form and then you got to the next, it would put the next date, so it would technically be the next day, right?
It would.
Okay, so
It
you
would.
be careful if you stop.
Yes, so if you started this form last night at 11:30 and you decide you're way too tired to try to complete this, you opened it up the next day, you could click on it and then select the day before
Got it. Okay.
so that it matched. If it doesn't match, you should get pinged when you upload this into the file, and you'll have to do a modification of terms or fix it and initial.
Yeah, I just didn't know since
Okay.
it was generated above, if it would
Yeah.
just continue from whatever was at the top
No.
versus the next day.
No, it'll put the same day
That makes
that
sense.
you double click. Okay.
Jamie?
Yes.
Real quick, for the time frame, do you always recommend to do it a year out?
Yeah, I usually do it a year out.
All right, thanks.
This next section, compensation payment, I usually don't talk about it. It just talks about like, hey, if you were offered 3% by the seller, what happens to that additional commission? It defaults to going back to the agent. So you would collect that additional commission. So you could credit it to the buyer or other, split it 50-50. It's up to you, but it defaults back to the buyer or to the agent, sorry. And I normally don't necessarily touch on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Broker right to compensation. This just outlines that, hey, if we decide that this relationship isn't working out, we can cancel it at any time. And any of the properties that I've shown you, if you decide to move forward and purchase one of those properties, I would still be due a commission if you ended up closing on that property. Okay, that's the broker right to compensation.
And that commission at the 2.5, right?
That's the commission at the
And that's
2.5.
even if you like, let's say they're like, oh, Heather's gonna do my whole transaction. They're gonna pay Heather 2.5, now me 2.5 because it was a listing.
Yeah, you could actually take this and give it the title company with the list of properties, and Heather would no longer be entitled to compensation. You would get the compensation. She would do it for free. Potentially.
I'll check it out.
Amy, is that something you would tell your buyer or like verbally, like, hey, if this happens, that, or do you just give this to them and let them lead it?
probably, just because there's not a whole lot to touch on in this page, I would probably just mention that, like, hey, if something happens, we decide this is a this good working relationship, we decide to end the relationship. If any of the properties that we saw together, you decided to write an offer on, I would be due compensation for that. Right,
Got
just
it.
a summary. This you want to fill in, right? If after, 90 days of the representation period, that'd be when it's a cancellation or expires, they decide to make an offer on any of those properties, we do have to provide them a list within 3 calendar days. Okay. This is just the timing of compensation, when the compensation is due. Ultimately, it's due upon the transaction closing. Okay, there's a few other caveats there, but for the most part, that's what it would be. Buyer has not previously entered into a representation agreement with any other brokers. That's where you'd fill it in. So if you ended your relationship and they decided to go work with Heather and filled one of these out, they would need to say like, oh yeah, we do have that. And here's the list of homes that I can't write an offer on, or that she would be due.
Thanks for the good vibes.
This is where it talks about our broker obligations and authorizations, right? So this just talks about the fact that, hey, buyer authorizes broker to locate and present selected properties to buyers, present offers authorized by buyers, and assist buyer negotiating for acceptance of such offer. We're going to assist buyer with the financing process, including a loan pre-qualification. Upon request, provide buyer with a list of professional vendors who perform services, right? So I'm going to help you find a home and enter into contract on that home, as well as help you connect with any service providers you need in order to make that successful. Okay. For property transactions of which the broker is aware and not precluded from participating in, the buyer and broker shall provide review forms, create a property contract, the acquisition, right? So this just goes back to that. We're also going to make sure that anything I learn about the property, I'm going to let you know, right? We now have an agency relationship, and I have a fiduciary responsibility to you. So anything I find out about that property that you're interested in or writing an offer on or have an accepted offer, whether it's from the neighbor or the listing agent, I'm having a conversation with the seller, I'm required to disclose to you. And I also have a requirement of confidentiality for you, right? I'm not going to go share your personal business to everybody, to the seller, to the listing agent, right? We're going to keep that protected so that we can use it for our advantage.
No, so like, let's say you go door knocking after you get a listing, open house coming, and you learn something at that point and you share it with them. Like, if it wasn't, let's say, I can't say the seller wouldn't know, like, let's say it's a neighborhood thing or something, and the seller didn't say something, but the neighbor was like, oh, there's 5 people killed here a week, like, you know what I mean? But they didn't share that information, because, you know what I mean? Like, they can get out of contract at that point if it's like
that would be considered a material defect,
right?
So yeah.
Okay. So things like, because I was just wondering, as you're door knocking, you're now learning about the neighborhood even more, and because you can't steer them away from somewhere that they would want to maybe go
No.
to. But if it was like you learned something, oh, by the way, Billy down the street said this happened,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
No.
I just want to make sure.
I haven't
that-
verified this, but just so you know, you may want to look further
Got
into this here. So
Okay.
it was disclosed to me.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Scope of broker's duty, right? My job is to help you find, locate a property, whether that be one that's listed in the MLS, whether it's going and finding a home in a neighborhood that's not on the market that you're interested in purchasing, for sale by owners, new homes. I can help you purchase any of those properties. I will make recommendations on the best practices and things that you can do to make your offer more attractive, to what you should offer, what you might want to offer on the property, what would be considered, based on an evaluation like market value. But ultimately, what you decide to put in that offer, what we decide to draw up and actually submit, is up to you, buyer. Okay, so that's my scope of duty. That's what I'm going to do for you. Buyer obligations is your obligation to me is just act in good faith, continue to move forward. We're signing an agreement that you're going to work with me. So if there's any properties that you want to see, please let me know prior to making arrangements to go see those. I'm happy to take you through, any properties on the market, for sale by owners, new home communities, anything like that, and guide you through that purchase process. Right.
What's the calendar part in that section?
This just, buyer further agrees to act in good faith towards completion of any property contract entered into in furtherance of this agreement within 5 calendar days from the execution of this agreement. Buyer shall provide relevant personal and financial information. They're just going to get pre-approved.
Okay, got it. Okay. So Maybe that's the way to get people pre-approved.
Proof.
Like-
That is. So I normally don't touch on that part, right? But if you're having problems getting somebody, like, hey, we signed an agreement, your next step is to get pre-approved. We did agree that you would move forward with that in a timely fashion the next week.
Interesting.
Okay.
Wow. But I guess.
The next is just kind of like other terms and conditions. I generally don't cover this very much with my buyers. It all kind of comes down to legal jargon, dispute resolution. It does. Dispute
I really wanna know,
resolution.
read it.
Yeah, if there's any problems that arise from this contract, we're gonna go into mediation and work it out before we take it to like civil claims.
Got it.
They're like, okay, perfect. There you go. That's the end of the buyer broker agreement. That's how I summarize it. There's a lot more words on it than that, but that's kind of how I summarize it to move forward. It's more about my obligations to you, the buyer, what I'm going to do for you, than it is about what the buyer's supposed to do. But we're creating a relationship and an agency relationship, which is really what I try to touch on, to outline that, what my responsibilities are to them, because we are creating this agency relationship. Outside of this agency relationship, I don't owe them anything.
And with this form, like without it being filled out, like, or can you print these forms without attaching them to a file?
Yes.
So.
I mean, you would want to create a dummy.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, well, this I kind of want, you know what I mean, just kind of have, I don't necessarily need to fill out any of the.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, but like,
Yep.
so.
Over there, you can do how I did it. I just printed the sample.
Yep,
Yeah,
you can
there.
print sample form,
Oh, beautiful.
and it
okay.
prints it with
That's
the word
sample.
sample on
Yeah.
it.
Okay,
I wrote all
perfect.
my
Oh,
notes on
good.
it.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a good one just to have.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Any questions from the Zoom people?
At what time do you usually deliver this to your buyer? At the end of like the consultation appointment? Or-
Yes.
And
At the
then
time of consultation would be the best time.
do you expect them to sign it like right at that moment, or give them time to like look it over and then return it to you maybe the next day, or I don't know?
I would probably ask them. So, and you kind of know, like, as you're meeting with them, depending on their personality types, there's somebody that's like, I've got to go through every line item and read it all. Then you'll be like, I'm going to give you a copy of this. I'm going to send it to you electronically for signatures. If you could, after you have time to review that this afternoon, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Otherwise, I'll expect you to log into DocuSign. You'll get an email from DocuSign. You can log in and sign the agreement. Then once you've had a chance to review it, otherwise I would have them sign right then and there.
Okay, I have one more question. That's it. What form do you use if it comes upon the event where you guys are canceling it?
So you would do a modification of terms to cancel it, a MOT form, I think. MOT,
Okay.
modification of terms, I think.
Okay,
Wrong on that form, but I mean, it's the right form. I could be wrong on the acronym, but it's the modification of terms is how you would edit this form to cancel it out. And then at the same time of cancellation, you would provide them a list of any properties that you had seen together.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question.
That's all. There's a form for that.
There's a form for that.
Good to know.
Yeah,
Pack everything.
because they want to make it official, right? All right. Any other questions?
Nope. Thanks, Amy, for going over that. You guys have a great day.
Absolutely. You guys can hop. It's a MT form, by the way. The modification of terms is MT. I always try to, I don't know.